Incredible moment. Millionaire discovered a worker who hiddenly resembled his long-lost daughter. Jack Mercer stepped onto the construction site, the summer heat clinging to him like a heavy blanket. His mind buzzed with the weight of unfinished business, meetings pending, and projects looming in the distance. But then he saw her Lisa, bent over her task, a determined glint in her eye. For a fleeting heartbeat, the air twisted around him as memories surged. She looked just like Emily. The connection struck him with a force that sent a jolt through his body. He halted, pulse racing, as flashes of laughter and sunshine washed over him. How could this be possible? Lisa's hands moved deftly, and for a moment, Jack was lost in the echoes of laughter that tragically vanished years ago. He should have been there. He should have been a better father. Regret gnawed at his insides, an all-consuming fire. Watching her with that unmistakable resemblance brought back unbidden memories of birthday parties, school plays, family camping trips, all of which felt like ghostly apparitions flitting throughout his mind. Could he feel this way? Want to talk to her? He swallowed hard, the moisture in his throat evaporating quickly as he wrestled with a surge of emotions. Jack glanced around, employing his practiced stoicism to mask the storm roiling within. Could he be a mentor to her, to someone who bore 30 years of regret? The thought twisted painfully in his stomach. Her life was different from his, filled with struggles he had never endured. What would he possibly offer her? Would he only succeed in pushing her away, or, worse, dredge up memories he wasn't certain he wanted to confront? Before he could spiral deeper, he found himself approaching her. The moment their eyes locked, everything shifted. There was an unsaid understanding there, an awareness of shared burdens. Perhaps she was keenly aware of the grief etched into her features. Perhaps she could see the hollow ache of his heart. And as he opened his mouth to speak, the weight seemed insurmountable. It was more than hesitance. It was a recognition of vulnerability he had long avoided, a crack forming in his fortress built on success and isolation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let us continue. He felt nauseous as he faced her. What haunted him as a father threatened to engulf him now as he confronted this young woman's reality. Everything she worked for was a mirror of the loss he had endured. Did he dare ruin her life with his baggage, or could they forge a path through pain together? Just when he thought he might speak her name, a shadow caught his eye. A conversation unfolded nearby, riddled with information that struck him like a punch. I heard her dad was connected to. The words trailed off, the uncertainty thickening the air. The implications churned uneasily within him. Lisa might be tied to Emily's past, a familial link, a revelation that threatened to unravel the very fabric of his carefully constructed reality. Jack's mind spiraled, racing against time, as he stood on the brink of a decision that could expose wounds long hidden and unleash a torrent of emotions he feared he wasn't ready to confront. With sweat trickling down his back, he grappled with an undeniable truth. Could they truly mend broken hearts without tearing open what lay beneath the surface? Jack wrestled with his thoughts, each possibility layered with complex emotions threatening to burst forth. The sun beat down, and he felt trapped in a furnace of indecision. Should he approach Lisa and unwrap the layers of truth woven into their unexpected connection? The anxiety coursed through him, igniting a desire for reconciliation. Yet a familiar dread lurked. What if he only complicated her life further? As he hesitated, the voices of the construction crew blended into a cacophony that only heightened his internal chaos. What if she's tied to the old wounds I thought were scarred over? A myriad of questions spilled like water from a shattered vessel. He tightened his grip on his briefcase, its familiar weight a stark reminder of his corporate world that felt so distant now. Every decision he made here felt monumental, yet irrelevant to the towering skyscrapers that showcased his success. "Focus, Jack," he muttered softly to himself, gathering the fragments of determination that began to emerge from the muddle. He had always thrived under pressure. It was time to challenge his own limits. Taking a deep breath, he closed the distance between himself and Lisa, who was now standing with her back towards him, intensely discussing something about supplies with a coworker. He cleared his throat, the sound catching her attention as she turned. Their eyes locked once more, and the world seemed to tilt for a split second. "Lisa," his voice cracked, but he pressed on. "I need to talk to you." The curiosity in her eyes shifted to caution, yet she nodded slowly. They stepped away from the din of machinery to a quieter corner of the site where they might comfortably communicate without the very real distractions of the ongoing work around them. "What is this about?" she asked, tilting her head. In that moment, Jack felt the urgency of the truth pressing on him like a frontal assault. How much could he reveal without shattering her mundane reality? "Look, I don't really know how to say this," but he hesitated, searching for words that would convey the depth of his feelings without overwhelming either of them. "You remind me of someone I lost a long time ago. My daughter, Emily." "Your daughter?" Lisa's expression shifted, eyebrows knitting together in confusion. What does that mean?" The concern in her voice shattered the hesitation that had locked him down. Jack realized then that running from vulnerability was no longer an option. The weight of his regrets was heavy, but perhaps sharing it could forge a bridge between their past and uncertain future. "It means I see a piece of her in you, and it's brought up a lot of feelings. I'm not trying to intrude. I just sensed a connection," and his voice trailed off as he fought against the flood of emotion threatening to drown him. Lisa took a step back, absorbing his words. "That's a lot to take in. I hardly know you, Mr. Mercer." "Jack," he corrected as his shoulders softened. "Please, just call me Jack. I've spent years building walls around my life, not just professionally, but personally. But seeing you, your determination, it stirred something in me. I want to understand if there's any link between us that's more than just resemblance." The air thickened with unspoken tension as Jack watched her process his revelation. Could this illuminate hidden strengths within him? Would sharing his past with her uncover truths about himself he had long buried? Lisa looked away for a moment, scanning the construction site, before turning back with a new resolve in her eyes. "What if I'm not ready for what you're asking me? What if I can't be everything you need?" Jack inhaled sharply, her honesty cutting through him like blades, revealing not only her uncertainty, but also his own fear about what awaited if they dared pursue this potential connection. But the weight of unresolved questions loomed large. He needed to know not only if she bore resemblance to Emily, but also if she housed the potential for healing for both of them. The tension heightened like a cord stretched to its breaking point, and Jack knew the moment was forging ahead. "Then let us figure out together," he suggested, voice steady. "But be warned, it won't be easy." Lisa nodded, her expression mingling with apprehension and a hint of acceptance. Before he could pursue the conversation further, the distant sound of machinery grew louder, signaling a shift in the day's dynamics. He felt that time was running short, and they were on the precipice of something profound. As her gaze flickered hesitantly between him and the site workers, Jack wondered if the revelation of their connection might ignite a chain of discoveries, intertwining them in ways they could not yet foresee. What would unfold next? Would they be prepared for the shadows of their past to rise together, or would the burden of change pull them apart? The question lingered heavily in the air, and Jack's heart raced. The moment of truth was emerging just within reach. Jack watched as Lisa considered his words, the raw vulnerability he'd revealed hanging thick in the air like a storm cloud. All the years he'd spent erecting barriers both at work and in his personal life felt like they were cascading down around him, revealing a landscape not just of grief and loss, but also of uncharted potential. The tension pulsed between them, his heart hammering in a rhythm that raced ahead of his thoughts. Memories of Emily, the laughter, the light in her eyes flashed vividly as he grappled with the truth. He had always sought solace in his career, drowning himself in spreadsheets and strategy meetings. But here, at this construction site, with Lisa's hesitant gaze meeting his, he felt awakened to the truth about his loneliness. "What are you really hoping for, Jack?" Lisa's voice cut through his reverie. The way she spoke, with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity, made the personal nature of his mission even more daunting. "I want to understand," he said, his voice firming with a deeper conviction. "Not just what it is that resonates in you that reminds me of her, but I want to see if I can heal too. Perhaps we can help each other." Her brows furrowed slightly, and Jack recognized the variety of emotions playing across her face: fear, intrigue, determination. He couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her, but he had to be careful. He was stepping into uncharted territory, where old ghosts lingered, and the risk of exposing his heart, again, was terrifying. "What if you're imagining feelings that aren't there?" Lisa countered, her tone sharpening as she brought their eye contact back to reality. "I mean, the loss you carry is immense, and I can't pretend to understand it just because I look like your daughter." He took a step closer, not out of neediness, but wanting to convey sincerity. "You're right, and I would never expect you to. But you should know I'm not looking for a replacement. It's just that you reminded me of something valuable. I've been grappling with loss for too long. Letting you in could unlock something I've been stashing away, something that's become a burden I carry." She stared at him, searching for evidence of his honesty. And in that moment of silence, Jack realized he was asking her to join him on a precarious journey, one burdened by memories and the weight of expectations. Could they bridge the chasm between their pasts without succumbing to its depths? "What if I let you down?" Lisa's questions surfaced from her vulnerability, reflecting the doubts now cascading between them, as delicate yet as impactful as glass. "I've let myself down more times than I can count." Jack's admission hung in the air. "This is new for me. Reaching out, being open. Maybe we'll stumble. Maybe it won't lead to anything beneficial. But I believe, at least, we deserve the chance to see." Her defenses began to soften. "You make it sound simple," she said, a hint of a smile flickering at the corners of her lips. "But life is messier than that." "Yeah, it is. But maybe that's what makes it worth it." As they stood in mutual implicit understanding, Jack felt a surge of hope unfurling within him, igniting a desire he hadn't dared entertain for years. He was no longer simply a corporate titan. He was a man with an unfinished story, desperately seeking closure. Outside, the chaos of construction continued, but within the cocoon of their shared moment, time felt suspended. Then, a loud crash resonated from the other side of the site, drawing both their gazes. The world around them jostled back into motion, pulling Jack into the reality they were both still anchored in. Jack's heart sank momentarily, the distractions of life intruding on their fragile connection. "Maybe we need to get to know each other first," Lisa said, hesitating as if weighing her own decision against the hesitation that danced upon her tongue. "That sounds reasonable." Jack nodded, urgency thrumming beneath his calm facade. Yet beneath that calm was an urgent need. The decision that hovered between them felt immensely consequential, and with every heartbeat, the gravity of it crept closer. If they were to open themselves up to one another, they would have to grapple not only with their shared experiences, but with who they could potentially become in the process. "Let us begin, then," he proposed, new determination simmering just under the surface. "Let us start from here, right now." Though Jack felt the stirrings of a connection, a question spun itself in the back of his mind. Could they truly carve a path toward healing together, or were they destined to be shadows reminding each other of what they lost? As they moved back toward the chaos of the construction site, the weight of possibility loomed larger than before, the invisible thread binding them tugging delicately between uncertainty and hope. What would they unravel together as they walked deeper into this intertwining narrative? The prospect glimmered like a mirage just beyond their grasp. The cacophony of hammers and drills welcomed them as Jack and Lisa pushed through the debris of the construction site, yet it felt like they were traversing a different realm, one colored by the intensity of their shared moment. They exchanged glances as they navigated the cracked pavement, The initial weight of uncertainty held beneath their smiles, and behind those smiles lay uncharted territories yearning to be explored. Jack realized the ambiguity of their situation was both frightening and exhilarating. As they walked side by side, it was the questions thrumming beneath the surface that tugged at his insides. What story would they craft together? How did one thread of their existence weave into the other? These ponderings ignited a mix of excitement and apprehension within him, intermingling with the echoes of his past. "Tell me about yourself," Lisa prompted, her voice pulling him from introspection. She appeared genuinely curious, a refreshing shift from the burdensome mental weight he carried for so long. "Where do you come from? What made you want to take on a job like this?" Jack hesitated, unsure where to begin. He could recount his illustrious career, success after success in boardrooms, but that felt hollow. It was not the legacy he wanted to share today. Instead, he thought of the man he had once been, passionate, grounded before the loss of Emily had reshaped his world. He chose authenticity over highlights. "I grew up in a small town," he shared, his voice unexpectedly steady. "My parents worked hard, but they always made time for family. I learned the importance of community early on. When Emily was born, I wanted to give her the world, but I got lost in my ambition instead." A slight frown creased Lisa's brow, perhaps sympathizing with his unvarnished revelation. "What happened?" Jack took a breath, the wind catching in his throat. "Life got in the way," he stated simply, aware that the depth of that statement was laden with years of regret. He pressed on, "I buried myself in work, draped myself in success while ignoring everything else. By the time Emily passed, I was left grappling with the void, having neglected what really mattered. Seems a waste, living and only focusing on one thing." Lisa replied thoughtfully, as if she could sense the reflections warring within him. "Exactly," he replied, a tightness forming in his chest. The recognition that his past had held him hostage was undeniable. Jack felt a clarity swelling, urging him to break free from those chains he had forged from grief. "But now I want to change that. I'm tired of feeling like I'm just floating through life. I want to be present, to make new memories, even if it scares me." The openness began to spark a reciprocal vulnerability within Lisa. Her eyes flickered with something akin to relief. "I can relate," she confessed. "I feel like I've been going through the motions, too, working to pay the bills, but not really living. I often wonder what I'm truly meant to do." The acknowledgement weighed in the air between them, a bridge forming with each shared truth. Jack could sense Lisa's walls beginning to lower. She stood not only as a reminder of his past, but as a beacon toward a promising future. Their conversation shifted from mere dialogue to a canvas where shared experiences could paint an understanding. As they navigated deeper into the site, Jack's curiosity about her life overcome the shadows tethering him. "What brings you here, to this place, this moment?" A moment of hesitation passed. She inhaled slowly, searching for the right words. "I've been running from my own expectations, what others believe I should be. I thought construction would offer some clarity, a break from what my life used to be." Her words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "Do you feel like you found it?" Jack pressed, urgency threading into his tone, even as he registered the delicate nature of her revelation. "I don't know," she admitted, glancing away momentarily. "But being here with you feels different." It's almost as if abruptly, her voice trailed off, replaced with a tension that stuck in the air. Jack felt it too, a spark of connection, raw yet tender, and their paths began to feel intertwined. He was no longer just a man attempting to reconcile his losses. He was awakening to the possibility of something genuinely significant alongside someone equally lost. The journey toward themselves had just begun. But just as the excitement ignited in Jack's heart, the sharp sound of a nearby argument broke the solemnity of their connection. He turned to see a group of workers arguing over a miscalculation in their plans, frustration spilling into chaos. "Looks like we aren't the only ones with problems to solve," he noted, the reality of their environment yanking him back into the present. As they exchanged a glance, an unspoken tension settled between them. Could their conversation withstand the shifting sands of tension swirling around them? Would they manage to carve their own paths together amidst the surrounding noise? Amidst the sounds of contention, Jack sensed a pivotal moment quivering in the air. The promise of a deeper connection flickered in his mind, revealing the potential for healing, but would they take the leap amidst the tumult of their lives? Time would tell, as the unfolding chapters of their journey beckoned. The argument crescendoed into a distraction that wrapped around Jack like a thick fog, drawing him away from the revelations spinning between him and Lisa. He could feel the tension in her posture, as if she too was caught in the upheaval of their surroundings. Each shout from the workers about deadlines and budgets seemed to echo the inner chaos he was trying to navigate. Jack clenched his fists slightly, grounding himself. Knowing this was more than just a construction site argument, it mirrored the discord he felt within. "Let us step back for a moment," Jack suggested, instinctively leading Lisa away from the rising tempers. They found a quieter corner beneath the skeletal frame of what would soon be an office building, the world suddenly receding into a muffled backdrop. Here, amidst the dust and distance, he turned to her, vulnerability still lingering. What if we averted the chaos? What if we leaned into this moment instead? Lisa met his gaze, her brow furrowing slightly as she processed his words. "I feel like I'm standing at crossroads," she admitted, her voice steady despite her uncertainty. "I want to embrace this clarity I felt the moment I walked on this site, the pull towards something bigger than just surviving." Her confession landed within Jack with the weight of a new understanding. They shared a mutual yearning, a desire to break free from the constraints of their pasts. Suddenly, it became crucial for Jack to articulate his inner shifting. "I've spent too long mourning a life filled with ambition, but devoid of meaning. I want to build something real again, and it starts with confronting the fear that held me back." Lisa's eyes sparked as she absorbed his words. "Then let us face it together," she replied, a newfound determination visible in her stance. "If we can redefine our expectations here, maybe we can figure out who we are beyond just the jobs we hold. We can be more." That sense of agency released a burst of adrenaline within him. Jack had often felt isolated in his grief, incapacitated by a fear of rekindling joy. But standing here alongside Lisa, he discovered that connection might be the very foundation he yearned for. Let us not let the world dictate what it means to succeed. Let us carve that path ourselves one step at a time. With her nodding in agreement, Jack felt the previously heavy weight of his past start to lift. The anger from the workers now seemed distant, a remnant of an old narrative not in tune with the emerging story he hoped to create. A sense of camaraderie began to weave itself into a fabric that might cloak him against the uncertainties ahead. As they continued to talk, Jack realized how their collaboration could open doors he had blocked for years. He began to dream of reconnecting not just with Lisa, but with parts of himself long buried underneath layers of ambition and grief. They shared anecdotes, shedding their past personae like snakeskin, renewing their commitment to be active participants in their own narratives rather than passive observers. But just as they leaned into this new direction, a shout erupted from the direction of the fracas, cutting them out of the moment. "This isn't just about money. It's about integrity." A voice bellowed, and the tumult surged again, this time drawing closer. Jack and Lisa exchanged looks of concern, their moment of clarity on the verge of derailment. Would they allow external conflicts to seep into their renewed pact for reckoning? A shadow of doubt lurked just beneath the surface, promising to test their resolve. That Jack's heart raced not from fear, but from the invigorating rush of possibility. The chaos may have returned, but they had kindled something important between them. He thought back to his desire to truly embrace life once more, and there was no turning back now. With a deep breath, Jack turned to Lisa, bearing witness to the tangible connection that had blossomed. "Are we ready to face what's next?" he asked, the question reverberating through the air between them. "Absolutely," Lisa affirmed, her expression emboldened. And with that affirmation hanging in the air, they stood at the precipice of not only their budding relationship, but also a new version of their individual selves. As they prepared to return to the den, Jack felt the thrill of unknown transformation looming just ahead, ready to unveil what they might discover together amid the fray. But the question lingered, pulling at Jack's resolve. What if that integrity the workers fought for meant confronting a truth he wasn't prepared to face? The moment was fragile, and secrets threatened to spill into the open. They would have to navigate not just the construction site, but the precarious scaffolding of their newfound ambitions. What awaited them could change everything. Their pulse quickened, the stakes rising. Jack inhaled sharply, the din of the construction site flooding back into focus. The passion behind the workers' sentiments reignited an old fire within him, a reminder of battles fought in silence and struggle against faceless bosses. He glanced at Lisa, whose eyes reflected a mix of enthusiasm and trepidation, and felt compelled to act. They were now interconnected in their mission, drawn towards a greater purpose. "Let us take a stand with them," he suggested, his voice steady despite the noise around them. It felt like a challenge, not just to the chaos outside, but to the complacency that had governed their lives up to this point. Lisa's expression shifted. The embers of doubt flickered, but did not extinguish. "Are we prepared for whatever this may lead to?" Jack considered this deeply. His journey had been fraught with uncertainty, and the chaos swirling around them mirrored the friction within. But perhaps this was the moment he had long awaited, the chance to engage in a fight that wasn't just about. As they stepped back into the fray, Jack felt the weight of their previous conversation merging with purpose. They could no longer afford to be passive observers. With each step toward the arguing workers, he recognized the stirring potential of solidarity. He wanted to reclaim the meaning behind ambition, not merely as a personal endeavor, but as a collective aspiration to support shared values of integrity and vision. When they reached the epicenter of the argument, Jack raised his voice above the clamor, catching the eyes of the surrounding crew. "We understand the stress you're under," he called out, his body vibrating with intensity. "But what does it achieve to fight alone?" The energy shifted, heads turned, curious expressions emerging. Jack met Lisa's gaze for a brief moment, drawing strength from her unwavering support. "If this fight is about integrity, we should align ourselves with that vision. We can rise together. We can redefine what success looks like, not just for ourselves, but for everyone on this site." His heart pounded as he spoke, urging him to lean into the uncertainty. They were no longer merely two individuals standing in the storm. They were part of a larger narrative worth investing in. Each response from the crowd steadied the small tremor of doubt within him, bolstering a newfound confidence. But his declaration was met with skepticism. "You don't get it. You're just the suits," one worker shouted back, frustration slicing through the atmosphere. The accusation stung. Jack grappled with the instinct to withdraw. Hadn't he spent years being branded by others for his previous detachment? Yet, he thought again of Lisa, and the possibility for change unfolded within him. "I'm not here as a suit today. I'm here as someone searching for my own sense of integrity too," he countered, voice sharp but passionate. The vulnerability crackled in the air like static, catching the attention of more workers. He felt a shift. Some faces softened, glimmers of understanding ignited. Jack knew he had struck a nerve by exposing the very essence of his struggle. Meanwhile, doubt kept gnawing at the edges of his mind. What if he failed? What if the past was too great a burden to bear? In response to the emerging connection, he glanced at Lisa again, who stepped closer, eyes alight with determination. This solidified their collective strength. Two flawed individuals aligned for a greater cause. Together, we can shift our narrative. We can prove it's about integrity, about building, and relying on each other. The crowd murmured, uncertainty still present, but curiosity started to take root. Jack's throat constricted as he felt realization slice through him. He was on the verge of something pivotal. But even as he felt the bond strengthening between him and the workers, a distant voice in his heart questioned, could they really mend the fractures that he had spent years avoiding? What lay ahead was still unresolved, full of potential pitfalls. Suddenly, the shadows of their shared past loomed larger, and Jack realized the battle. Before them would demand more than just coherent arguments. Answers remained locked away, teetering on the edge of revelation, threatening to reshape everything they had begun to build. As their surroundings pulsed with urgency and energy, Jack faced the mounting challenge head-on this time, armed not just with words, but with a commitment to embrace that which had always been just beyond his grasp. Would their effort yield the integrity they sought, or would it unearth deeper fears? The moment lay suspended, charged with anticipation. Jack's heartbeat thrummed in his ears, the fervor of his challenge hanging heavily in the air as he scanned the faces of the workers. The tension was palpable, questions hanging unvoiced between him and the crowd. Jack fought the instinct to retreat into the safety of silence, aware that doing so would betray the commitment he had just made. "Listen," he said, managing to steady his voice. "I know my past may have painted me as distant. I've spent too long hiding from the real issues. But that's over." The words escaped him, raw and unfiltered, revealing the struggle within. He felt Lisa's reassuring presence beside him, a grounding force that pushed him to bear his truth. "Prove it," someone shouted back from the crowd, a challenge lacing their tone. The voice ignited a surge of defiance in Jack. He thought of the years lost in corporate corridors, too often prioritizing profit and image over real connection. Was it time to face the very identities he had crafted, those of a man defined by ambition but lacked substance? Could he engage more deeply, forging connections rather than wielding titles? "Yes," he replied, more as a declaration to himself than to them. "I want to just talk today, I will act." The words fell from his lips with unexpected clarity. But what action would reflect his newfound commitment? A murmur rolled through the crowd, creating an undercurrent of skepticism and interest. Jack started to draw ideas from the energy around him, flipping through potential actions in his mind like pages of a book bursting with unexplored chapters. "I propose we organize some dialogues, roundtable discussions about what every single person here needs to thrive." Lisa nodded beside him, her presence fueling his resolve. She recognized the shift within Jack. The confusion and self-doubt had slowly transformed into a raw determination. "What do you know about our struggles?" "Your kind never listens," the same voice retorted, deeper disappointment creeping into their words. "I don't have all the answers," Jack admitted, feeling a weight on his chest as he recognized his ignorance. "But I want to learn. I want to listen actively and genuinely. If I'm here to fight with you, not against you. Let's work together to create something that honors our experiences." The words had landed. Jack noticed subtle nods among the workers, the flicker of hope replacing the skepticism. But with that glimmer came unease. Was he equipped for the groundwork needed? Would opening these doors put him in the line of fire with his peers, the ones who had always put profits above people? Panic threatened to claw at him. He could hear the echo of his past failures whispering in the corners of his mind. But deep down, something shifted. He was no longer merely a bystander. His role was transforming into that of a catalyst. He had a choice, the power to redefine connections, not just to build bridges, but to cultivate a culture of mutual respect and integrity. "Look," Jack continued, striving to connect with them on something beyond their grievances. "I've spent years chasing a vision of success that served my aspirations but left others behind. I failed to recognize the true value forged in unity and understanding. I've learned the hard way that ambition means nothing without empowerment." His earnestness broke through the barriers. There was recognition. Jack saw heads nodding, expressions softening. Perhaps they could recognize him as one of their own, not just another suit, but a man ready for change. Just as a deeper connection started to blossom, whispers traveled through the crowd, distracting everyone. One worker stepped forward, eyes sparkling with a long-buried emotion. "What if we find a way to work together, but you show us where your heart truly lies?" Jack didn't know what it would take for trust to flourish, but he could sense it hanging in the balance. He related to the fear of vulnerability, of exposing one's deeper self to potential judgment. But collective trauma had a way of stitching bonds deeper than individual aspirations ever could. "I'll show you," he whispered to himself, feeling the metaphorical walls begin to crack. Perhaps this was about digging deeper than surface-level grievances, testing the very fibers woven into the fabric of their identities. However, as he stood there, balancing on the precipice of a potential collaboration, another pang of doubt flickered in the back of his mind. Could he truly navigate this new territory, build trust, and forge meaningful partnerships even when the stakes felt so high? The air thickened with unspoken tension, igniting a fear inside him that clashed with the determination blossoming at the forefront. Jack's mental gears whirred, noticing the faces reflected anticipation and anxiety. "Will you join me?" he asked, echoing the emotion felt in his core. "Can we share this journey? Discover what success truly means? I need your help, just as I hope you'll find value in my commitment. Can we take this step together?" The worker paused, looking deeply into Jack's eyes as silence enveloped them. The moment hung, pregnant with possibility, fraught with the weight of expectation, as Jack felt the stirrings of something monumental on the horizon. And as he waited for a response, he grappled with the realization that the next step was about to challenge the very roots of who he thought he was and what it meant to be a leader. A heavy silence cloaked the group, broken only by the rustling of jackets and the occasional cough. Jack's heart raced. He hadn't anticipated the intensity of this moment, where a single response could pivot the trajectory of his aspirations into uncharted territory. The worker's scrutinizing gaze seemed to peel away Jack's defenses, forcing him to confront the raw vulnerability he had long sidestepped. Just as doubt began to resurface like smoke curling in the air, the worker finally nodded. "All right, let us see what you've got. But you better come through," he said earnestly, the challenge intertwining with a thread of hope. With that single sentence igniting a spark, Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. The beginning of something significant dawned upon him. "Thank you. I want to take this lightly," he replied, conviction coloring his tone. He was stepping onto a battlefield, where action would demand courage, not just words. Jack turned to the others, embers of determination igniting in their eyes one by one. "Let us figure this out together. I want to know your stories, your struggles, not just for you to be heard, but for me to understand the true essence of our work." He noticed individuals begin to straighten their shoulders. A couple leaned in, removing the distance that doubt had created. Jack seized the momentum. "Let's gather again to share what holds us back from doing our best here. I want to create a safe space for us to explore these challenges." Yet beneath this fervor, Jack felt a flicker of disquiet. Market pressures loomed in the back of his mind, pressuring him to succeed, but could he prioritize connection over competition? In this realm of vulnerability, would he still hold value in the corporate eyes of his peers? He questioned how far he could extend his commitment without losing sight of his professional goals. On the train ride home, Jack watched the scenery zip past, framing his reflective thoughts against the world outside. The duties that awaited him in the office felt heavier than before. He envisioned the usual contours of the corporate landscape, with colleagues ready to dismiss his newfound strategy for authenticity as a mere fad. Would they welcome this change, or would they challenge him, questioning whether he had the resolve to turn intentions into reality? The tension pooled in his gut. How would I face those who have only ever seen the metrics, not the people behind them? Jack asked himself. Accepting the challenge presented by the worker brought new legitimacy, but it also heightened the stakes. Failure could cost him not just credibility, but potentially damage the burgeoning trust he had started to build. Yes, he entered his apartment. The walls echoed with his uncertainty. Jack sat at his kitchen island, illuminating the darkness with the soft light of his laptop. He began drafting an agenda for the upcoming roundtable discussion, wrestling with how to structure a meeting that invited genuine dialogue. The struggle was evident. He wanted to peel back the layers of hierarchical power dynamics, Yet the sheer challenge of vulnerability loomed large. Deep within, Jack realized that this endeavor was about more than mere professional relations. It carved into the very fabric of his identity. He needed to uncover a depth within himself that had long been shrouded in corporate ambition. How could he blend his desire for success with meaningful connections? The emails he drafted began to sound like the same rehearsed pitches he had once used, a risk of slipping back into old habits. Pausing, he let out a sigh. What will they think of me? He contemplated before forcing himself to type out an entirely different message. This was no longer about selling an idea, but rather inviting dialogue and honest stories from fellow humans. Just as he formulated his authentic invitation, an unexpected notification broke his focus. An unread email flashed on his screen, its subject line curious and filled with urgency. Jack's pulse quickened, anticipation heightening. Whatever message awaited him could shift everything. Again, perhaps bringing him closer to understanding his newly embraced role. Intrigued, Jack clicked on the message, stilling his breath, uncertain of what revelation lay hidden in its words. Jack's heart pounded as he scanned the screen, eyes darting over the email. The sender was someone he knew well, Sylvia, the director of operations. Her words unfolded like an unexpected plot twist in a gripping novel, laden with urgency. Jack, we need to discuss your recent proposal. I must admit, it caused quite a stir. Can we meet tomorrow morning? There are potential ramifications, both positive and negative, we need to address. His brow furrowed. What had he triggered with his call for authenticity? Sylvia's tone suggested concern shrouded in curiosity. Could it be that the top brass perceived his vulnerability as a threat rather than an opportunity? Panic welled up, yet Jack battled against it. He had to cling to the purpose behind his intentions, which magnified in that moment. Jack understood the precarious balance he was trying to maintain. He had committed to building a more inclusive culture, but would that purpose align with corporate interests? If Sylvia was delicate in her response, what about the others? He recalled the glances exchanged among his colleagues, a mixture of hope and skepticism. Building trust was essential, but if ridicule from upper management ensued, what would happen to the fledgling bonds he had begun nurturing? At dawn, he stood before the mirror, running a hand through his hair. A reflection stared back at him that felt both foreign and familiar. Today would test him further. He needed to be resolute in his approach. Any hint of insecurity might undermine the very changes he sought to instigate. He donned his favorite blazer, its fabric familiar, yet it felt like armor against a professional battlefield. The atmosphere in the meeting room buzzed with an unnerving energy when he arrived. Sylvia was already seated, a furrow etched across her brow. As the door clicked shut behind him, it felt as though a metaphorical curtain had fallen between ambition and reality. Jack inhaled deeply, reminding himself that he owed it to himself and his colleagues to speak his truth. "Thank you for meeting with me, Sylvia. I appreciate your prompt response." Jack opened, his voice steady but revealing an underlying current of anticipation. She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "Jack, let me be clear. Your proposal resonated with many, but some believe it could upend the established order. Vulnerability and connection? Are we ready to tread this path?" A wave of defensive instincts rose within him. The doubt he had struggled with surged forward. But we need this. People don't just respond to metrics. They crave belonging. Perhaps. But have you thought about the implications? Some may view this not as progress, but as a distraction from our objectives. Sylvia pressed, the weight of reality sinking in with her words. Jack grappled with her point, the emotion that fueled his push for authenticity now battling against the cold pragmatism he had been nurtured into. This was not just about presenting an agenda. It was about navigating the very heart of his organization. Change is difficult. Yes, he managed. Mitigation versus confrontation flaring in his thoughts. But leaders who adapt to their teams cultivate loyalty, and fostering connection will ultimately drive performance. Her expression softened slightly, perhaps recognizing the sincerity of his convictions. "I admire your passion, Jack. However, You need to strengthen your argument with concrete examples. Otherwise, you risk losing those allies who supported your initiative. With her words resonating in his mind, Jack felt the tension dissolve and transform into clarity. He had been so wrapped up in the need for vulnerability that he had overlooked the strategic dialogue. What if he reframed this dynamic? Yes, I see that now. I need to approach it from both angles, Jack said, resolve crystallizing within him. After their discussion, he left the meeting with greater urgency than before. Driven by an emerging strategy, Jack knew that mastering corporate gamesmanship was equally as vital as his quest for authenticity. Those moments from his early workshops began swirling in his mind. Their stories could serve as powerful narratives to support his point. Now, he sensed an opportunity approaching, a convergence of personal belief with professional enhancement. As he formulated his next steps, his mind raced with the challenge ahead, teetering between nurturing trust and navigating corporate politics. That Jack's phone buzzed as he walked, another notification illuminating his path. An invitation from a former colleague he heard from in ages. Perhaps this was the connection he desperately needed, but would it lead him toward clarity or distraction? He hesitated, paralyzed by the tension between opportunity and distraction, weighing the threads of potential against the fears of losing sight of his essence in this corporate labyrinth. Jack Mercer stood at the threshold of change, each breath carrying the weight of past regrets and future possibilities. In the mirror's reflection, he saw a man transformed, a swell of resolve ignited within him, brimming with the potential to finally embrace his dual roles of father and leader, no longer defined solely by his wealth or corporate accolades. Today would mark a pivotal moment, a blend of vulnerability and determination to stand as a bridge between his past and an uncertain, promising future. As he stepped into the bustling office, the chatter of colleagues reverberated like a distant echo, yet Jack felt grounded. He had taken the previous day's lessons to heart. Vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but a pathway toward connection. He could feel the vibrancy in his chest, a flicker of anticipation for the roundtable discussions he had proposed, a chance to weave narratives that intertwined their stories with aspirations. The conference room felt suffocating. He took a deep breath, eyeing his colleagues and urging himself to break free from the looming skepticism. Today, he began, his voice unwavering, is not about the metrics or the KPIs we chase. It's about us, who we are, and who we can become together. Jack's words, raw and honest, broke through the clutter of corporate apathy, sparking an unanticipated energy in the room. I want to hear your stories, he urged, eyeing a few skeptical faces. I made the mistakes of focusing solely on success as measured by profits. But I realize now I've neglected the human connections that truly define my professional life. His heart raced, yet he felt an undeniable thrill as he challenged the status quo. Among those seated was Sylvia, her brows furrowed as she anticipated a flurry of objections. What makes you think we want to share our lives with you, Jack? A bold voice countered. You've always been the boss, and now you want to know our feelings? Jack stood firm, allowing their skepticism to wash over him. I understand that I've distanced myself, but this is not about me. It's about changing how we interact, how we achieve things together. I want to understand you on both professional and personal levels. We can establish a community built on trust and integrity. As he spoke, his confidence solidified in the room like concrete, strong and unyielding. The conversations began to crack open, revealing a raw honesty not often present in the corporate sphere. I can relate, a quiet voice chimed in. I feel like just a cog in this machine. More voices followed, sharing tensions and dreams long tucked away. Layers of emotions unraveled like a long-forgotten script, spilling transformative narratives into the room. Moments of laughter intertwined with confessions, wrapping Jack in a bittersweet embrace of connection that he praised their stories, weaving in lessons he learned through his own journey, including the times he had failed to prioritizing love and authenticity. We are here to build, and together we can redefine what success means, he stated, the synergy building momentum. With each shared story, Jack cemented his role not merely as a powerful executive, but as a man who faced loss and rose anew. He began to create pathways ideas for joint initiatives to support each other both personally and professionally. The allegory of construction forged a bond deeper than any financial bottom line could measure. He began to feel the weight of isolation lifting. As stories flowed and laughter filled the gaps, Jack relished a growing belief, as though each individual was a brick ready to be laid down in a new cultural foundation. The conversations painted hues on their corporate structure that were previously absent. An intangible glow radiated warmth within the room, like the close of the meeting. An unexpected silence enveloped them. Jack could feel the air thick with a newfound sense of unity. "Let's meet again next week," he proposed, excitement thrumming through him. "We will initiate our ideas and delve deeper into our connections. Together, we will redefine our path moving forward." In the midst of this crescendo of encouragement, Jack felt the rush of genuine satisfaction surge through him. Transformation ignited not just for himself, but for each member of his team. They were standing at the precipice of something tangible, evolving from mere colleagues into a cohesive, supportive network. Walking out of that meeting, he encountered Lisa in the hallway, her eyes glimmering with unspoken admiration. "I saw you in there, Jack," she remarked softly. "You really do mean it, don't you?" "Absolutely," Jack replied, his own self-doubt subsiding momentarily. "It feels like my voice matters, like it's finding resonance beyond profit margins." In that moment of shared understanding, Jack realized he had achieved critical professional growth. Not only was he navigating his personal connections, but he was also steering a corporation toward a new ethos. He understood the beauty of intertwining ambition with humanity would elevate not just his career, but also enrich the lives of those around him. Back in his apartment later, Jack felt different. He drafted messages thanking those who shared their stories, fortified by gratitude and purpose. He leaned back, acknowledging the cushion of fulfillment filling him. He had conquered his past hurdles. By opening himself to vulnerability, he had facilitated a culture of real connection. Heartfelt progress would serve as the foundation for everything that lay ahead. The journey had only just begun, yet Jack emerged transformed, confident, and with a renewed mission to create a legacy driven by unity and integrity, one moment at a time. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss exclusive emotional stories like Jack's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these tales of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about Jack's transformation below. I want to hear your thoughts. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share, as the power of connection and growth is too important to keep to ourselves.